What happens when you let go and let God? Well, Jeannie Ortega is here to tell us. After nearly a decade, she's back with her brand new album, Letting Go, and trust me, this one's got it all. You don't want to miss this. Stick around, our conversation starts right now on Kingdom Builder TV.
Eso. Alaba, 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 alaba,
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Laxton, and welcome to another edition of Kingdom Builder TV. Today I'm joined by someone who has been on an incredible journey, from pop stardom to faith-driven music, Jeannie Ortega. She's back with her first full album in almost 10 years, Letting Go, blending urban, hip-hop, and Latin influences with a powerful message of surrender. Jeannie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. Now, always for first-time visitors to our platform, we definitely want to get to know you a little bit better. I know you have a fairly lengthy history as far as what you've done in the past. So before we get into Letting Go, the latest album you put out, can you just kind of, as short as possible, summarize kind of a little bit about your background and your journey into now the Christian music realm?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up in Bushwick, Brooklyn, New York. At the time, it was the ghetto. I didn't have actually a huge faith influence. It was more so a cultural thing. I was totally pretty secular and everything. And it was a difficult time just growing up in that environment. It was violent inside and outside for me, unfortunately. And so I needed an outlet. And I'm so grateful because now I know it was God. I didn't know at the time, but I wound up finding that in music. So music was kind of my saving grace, and it really got me out of that, very dark place. Like I had nowhere to turn, couldn't go anywhere, and the enemy really just wanted me to end it, very early on. And now I know, like I said, it's God, but he used music to get my attention and kind of shift gears for me and my focus. And so, here I am, this girl in the ghetto. I had no ties to the industry or anything like that, but I'm like, I want to be a singer because music has power to help people feel better. That's what music did for me. And so I just, crazily enough, just started to basically hustle. I'm going to sing anywhere and everywhere that I can. And I'm going to get myself out there. I'm going to be a famous singer. I would literally say that to everyone. And I actually was discovered in a New York City taxi cab. Oddly enough, the driver of the cab also moonlit as a limo driver for famous managers and producers in the industry, and wound up connecting me with a real legit famous manager. And that kind of kickstarted everything for me. So my entire teenage life, I was creating music and touring and doing things like that. And I wound up with my debut album, and I'm just really fast forwarding, but with the debut album, I wound up getting really huge success. I had a hit single with Papoose, the underground rapper in New York. And the song went gold on radio, top 25 on Billboard. My debut album was #1 on the Billboard Heat Seeker charts, which was mind blowing. And I made it. Like I felt like, oh, this girl made it. I made it out the hood, and all the dreams that I had by the time I was 19, 20 years old, I had accomplished them. But what didn't change was the brokenness inside of me. I was still this really angry, broken little girl that couldn't get people to get along. I couldn't find peace in my house. My neighborhood was still what it was. My bank account changed, but nothing else did. And that's really what got me on a journey with God. Someone invited me to a Christian church, and I thought everyone was nuts because they were talking to God out loud, but I was jealous. I'm like, what they have, that relationship, that real outlet, that connection, I needed that. And so that kind of put me on a journey with God in the midst of all my success. And then that eventually, we all know, right? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So it shifted this bad girl from Brooklyn. That was my whole persona as a pop star, to wanting to talk about Jesus and talk about hope and the stuff that really helped save my life as a child.
It's an amazing testimony, which, we've been very recently, just in just some of the conversations we've had with different artists. For myself, music's always been a a driving factor as far as, not only my faith, but just what you relate to, just because of what you listen to and things like that. So I can understand that, from that communication aspect and in the industry. I mean, it's the mainstream industries can be pretty tough and pretty
Oh,
ragged,
yeah.
and so now you've made your way over here to the Christian music industry, and it kind of going into the latest album you had come out late last year, Letting Go. Obviously it seems like it's been 10 years since you put something out musically. Hey, and it sounds like you've already kind of touched on it a little bit, but was there a primary catalyst that kind of launched hey, I want to put out an album now, Letting Go. Let's do this. What was kind of the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, and interesting you talked about the industry, right? Because I think the industry is the industry, whether it's secular or Christian,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And so, when I came out of being a pop star a long time ago, and really I got myself grounded. I really learned the Bible. I learned about this savior that I now was enamored by. I learned about the consequence for the sin that I had put
Hmm.
out in the world. A lot of it I was living in, and I really had to transform and pivot, and turn from sinful ways to God. And then, I started to release music, and I went to Nashville and I recorded an entire Christian record there, and that was fun, but it was like Jeannie meets, contemporary music. It wasn't
Hmm.
really Jeannie. It was me getting my feet wet and figuring out who am I as a Christian artist. I wasn't this rough, rugged girl, like I still was, but I didn't know how to marry that with my walk in the Lord. And so after years of just really going through a sanctification process and growing up and maturing, I found myself not even knowing what to sing or to say. And so that's why it took so long for me to record another record, because I didn't have a song to sing. I think I needed to live a little bit more life. And in that season, I lost several children in miscarriage.
Hmm.
I understood grief now like I never did before. I, with my husband, launched a ministry and we started to disciple people. And man, discipleship is messy. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
get to really, you're in the nitty gritty with people, and so you're in their highs and their low lows. And so like a lot of life happened, and I think I needed all that. Then I wrote a book, and I think I needed to birth that book, to share my journey from pop stardom to, God and all these
Hmm.
things, and help teach people through the book. And after that, I felt like, okay, now's the time. I have a song to sing. But this time, I didn't want to do Christian industry stuff. I wanted to do a Jeannie record that is filled with the Lord God and
Hmm.
his presence, and be real to myself and make
Hmm.
it genuine and as honest as I could. And that's where letting go came from. Letting go is essentially letting go of the control. Even trying to make it, like trying to make it successful. Like,
Hmm.
no, I surrendered that to God. The success of the album for me is me being obedient and being true to myself, sharing honest, authentic, genuine content with people that need real life stuff. They don't
Hmm.
need fluff. They don't need, you know, Christian, you know, like a formula. They need real life. And how
Hmm.
do we as believers make it through? And so that's what the album is. It's my surrender record, and I hope it's an album that will lead others to surrender, to let go of the things that have been hurting and pressuring them so they can walk in their freedom in God. I don't know if I answered your question, but I felt
No,
like I
yeah,
needed to
absolutely.
share all
No,
that.
definitely, no, definitely answered the question for sure. I mean, it's, you know, I can see with, you mentioned again, we talk about the industry is how that sometimes it's very formula based. It's like, this, and this, but, with your prior sound, with the urban and hip hop and even the Latin context that, kind of led into my other question, which I think we're, as far as what is the sound of Letting Go? So for anyone who's not heard it yet, how would you describe that sound compared from old Genie and new Genie? How would that sound to someone who's
Yeah.
listening to it?
Honestly, I would actually say that this new album sonically is closest to my debut album, and which
Hmm.
was almost 20 years ago. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like It is Jeannie from New York, from Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's me sonically, and New York is hip hop, New York is urban, New York is
Mm-hmm.
honest, right? And so I definitely bring all that to the table, but at my heart and my core, I'm a pop singer. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it's Mariah Carey that God used to save my life as a little girl. And so melodically what comes out of me is pop, and then obviously content wise, it's sincere and it's
Mm-hmm.
honest, but it's rooted in God. It's rooted in who I am now as his daughter. And so, yeah, there's the Latin vibe. I'm Puerto Rican,
Mm-hmm.
and now I live in Orlando. So there's a lot of Latin vibe over here.
Oh
And I
yeah.
love that. And so, yeah, I think it's just, and also if we're being honest, like the popular music of the day is exactly what I feel like I grew up in and
Mm-hmm.
what I am. So it's not like I was venturing out to do anything that's not cool now. I'm grateful that now the stuff that I grew up in is cool still. And so yeah, I was able to just be honest with myself and with my sound, but also I think it's still very relevant. So that's great.
And again, for going back to that, the sound of the album, for anyone who's listening to it, there, I think if you like that, again, the Latin sound, the hip hop, the urban sound, I think that's gonna really um it's gonna really draw that demographic for sure, as far as giving them that sound that they're looking for, because of course everybody's got different musical taste preferences, which is why I think that this particular genre is it's definitely a lot better spot it was like 10 years ago. It's definitely growing still, but I think it's nice to have you have experience on both sides of the mainstream and Christian side, so you can kind of bring that into it and understand that part of things. But now, if someone was to sit down for the first time and look at the album, like, okay, I mean, am I going to play this from the first track to the last one, or should I maybe start off somewhere? Where would you recommend someone start off first, and why?
Yeah, I actually did. I labeled the album, or I did it in a way for that. Like if someone who didn't know who I am
Mm,
and they wanted to go on this musical journey, that they could start from the very first track, Yahweh,
mm,
all the way to the very last track, which is Let It Go.
mm,
It totally has this synchronization, and I feel like it is meant to take people on a journey. It starts off fun, it starts off fast and cool and anthemic, you can sing along. And then in the middle, it gets really deep and it gets to
mm,
that point of surrender and like, I really need to make an exchange, let it go. And then it builds back up with these kind of these very strong uh statement pieces about identity, about who you are, and like affirming yourself. And then that's how it concludes. So I really do think that I tried my best anyway to do it that way, from just even the way I numbered the album from
mm,
number one all the way down, just so people can go on that journey. And so far I've gotten incredible feedback. I sat with someone who said, this felt like a therapy session. Like, you go into
mm.
therapy and you kind of talk and you're like,
Yeah.
hey, getting to know them. And then it gets super deep, but then you leave feeling very encouraged.
Hmm.
And when they said that to me, I said, wow, that is probably the best description that anyone could ever give me for this music, because that's what I wanted.
That's awesome. It's like you said, it takes you on your journey from where you were, I guess, to where you want to be, which is great, because then you follow that story, and it gets people to want to listen to the whole thing, because they're like, well, wait, so this is leading into the next one. It's a story of itself. It's chapter one all the way to chapter was it 15, or however many tracks are on
15, yeah.
yeah, 15 or 13, I think, album on the track. Now, definitely lyrically, especially with in the Christian music genre, a lot of lyrics tend to be more raw and deeply personal. Were there any particular songs on the album that were maybe a little bit more tough to write or record because of that? And what song might that be?
Yeah, there was a few of them, if I'm being honest. Um, Let's see. I wrote a song, I Miss Us. It's number
Mm,
3, and it's a song about marriage. And
mm,
I've been married for 15 years. And anyone who's been married for a long time understands, like, they know the highs and lows that marriage goes through.
mhm,
And I really wanted to write a song that expressed that moment where you feel like, man, we're at our lowest. How are we gonna get out of this or through it? And but then also inspire them not to give up. So I Miss Us was deeply personal to write because I had to kind of talk about some of my lowest moments
mm,
in my marriage where I'm like, man, I miss the way we used to be.
mhm,
But I promise that I am going to fight for this and I'm not going to give up. And I know that we'll get there again, you know? And I wanted to be honest about those lows in marriage so that others can be inspired not to give up. Because I feel like too many people give up when the lows come. And I wouldn't have been married for 15 years if I gave up, you know?
mm,
So that was super personal. There's another song on the album called Stay Up. And
mhm,
it's like, stay encouraged, stay up. And for me, that was like I was sitting on an airplane. I forget where I was coming from. And I felt the Lord tell me, write down everything that's breaking your heart right
mm,
now. And so every single line of those verses in that song is something that deeply was breaking my heart and troubling me. But then the chorus of that song is God singing over me, stay up, my child. This will only last a while. You'll get through this,
mm.
And so yeah, some of those I have a lullaby that I sing to my son that's on the album. And so that's like super personal because that's in our bedroom every night.
Right.
I sing that to him to sleep. But there's really a lot. I mean, I can go on, but I'll stay with those.
I've always found that when an artist is being very personal and takes that deep dive into their journey that they're having, that's when the audience resonates the most, just because you can relate to it. It's not just, it's not just like you said before, not just fluff. It's there. You're telling a story. You're actually like, hey, this is my life. This is what I've been through. So I can, I could see where you're going with that as far as like the whole thing. The whole album is relatable and it's all that story. So I love that how you put that. And then I know I mentioned the lullaby. I saw the lullaby on there. I was like, yeah, this definitely sounds like very personal because
Yeah.
you had that there. So if you had to describe your album Letting Go in 3 words, what would it be?
I'd give you 2 words.
Okay.
Musical surrender.
Okay. All right. All right. Any particular, I know you kind of touched on it. Any particular reason why those are the most specific words?
I think that when you even listen to any of the songs, it gets you to a place where you're like faced with that decision. Like,
Hmm.
am I gonna keep on carrying the junk that I've been holding, or am I just gonna let it go? And
Mm,
so I feel like it's a beautiful album for that musical surrender. Let it go is just probably, letting go is just a cooler
mhm.
way of saying surrender.
Back to the sound that you have with this album and even just your sound from here on forth. For those who are unfamiliar with your music, what particular artists or artists do you kind of draw your inspiration from? And what if you would compare yourself to other artists, mainstream or Christian or like, I mean, who would you compare that to kind of give them an idea of what they would sound like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like Christian wise, I really don't know. I think because a lot of the females in Christian music are either contemporary music
Hmm.
or hip hop, straight
Hmm.
hip hop. And so
Yeah.
because I'm a pop singer, it's harder. I think Blanca
Hmm.
probably does walk that line
Okay.
similarly to the way I would. I sometimes wonder, I think I'm probably a little more urban
Hmm.
in some of my sounds, but like I said, Mariah Carey has been a huge influence in my
Hmm.
life. And so, she's very similar in the sense of using like hip hop urban sounds with straight pop songs on top of it. So I would say, for sure her. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I mean, there's so many incredible artists. I try
Hmm.
to just be true to who I am and
Okay.
myself. Jennifer Lopez is probably
Hmm.
another singer who uses heavy urban sounds
Hmm.
with pop records. She's more of the dance, like of that dancey kind of
Hmm.
music. And so some of that I do have in the album, which is very dancey and it's fun and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know if that's an adequate answer or if I
No,
just use
that
kind of
I mean,
like older influences.
no, that's great. I mean, she's got the Latin vibe there too, as well. So
Right.
you've got that in there. Now, a little birdies told me that apparently back in your mainstream days, you actually got to be on a major tour with an artist who's actually still doing music today, Rihanna.
Yeah.
If you could tour today with any artist, let's say Christian or mainstream, who would be the perfect fit for you and why?
Wow. What a question. No one's ever asked that.
That's good that I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm asking it, so we can get.
Yeah, that's good. Now you got me. I'm challenged. Challenged. I love that. Um, huh. I don't know. I definitely would want to be like, if it's a Christian artist, I would want to be with someone who is genuine to the faith,
Hmm.
but also genuine, obviously to the message of
Hmm.
just being honest with their content. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are tons. I'm thinking which one would I fit in best with? I'm not sure. I'm just I'll tell you who I'm a fan of, and I would
Okay,
just like
that
to.
works.
So that would be incredible to get on their tour. Like I absolutely love Forrest Frank. The vibe is
Oh yes.
so inspirational
Hmm.
and positive, and I do think it's authentic. I love that.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm like, I wish I can be that nice. He's just such a sweetheart. So yeah, I love him. I absolutely love NF. Now to give you the
Mm-hmm.
exact
Yep.
opposite. Like, Forrest Frank is super positive and hopeful, and NF is like emo, very
Right.
emo and very, but I think they're both authentic. So that's what I'm drawn to. I love artists like that. So I do love him, and I love Forrest Frank.
Hmm.
Of course, I'd be honored to go on tour with any of the legends that we have today in Christian music. I love Lecrae.
Hmm.
As a person, I know, I've known him throughout the years, and he's always been just a sweetheart. So just to be on, with any of the heavy hitters like that, Toby Mac, um, you know, yeah, I don't know. There's just so many. And of course, like I said, a dream would be Mariah Carey.
Hmm.
God used her to save my life. And, maybe one day I'll be able to tell her that. And if I get to open up for her or something like that, like, come on. Torrin
You-
Wells is also incredible. I forgot to
mhm.
mention him, but he's super dope. Danny Goki. There's so many. There really is a lot of artists.
Well, if it's meant to happen, God's gonna make a way. We know that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's definitely in the plan. You mentioned NF earlier. I was like, that's what I was talking about, like music that's really relatable. His is definitely in that vein,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like mental health situations, because that's
Yeah.
a lot of his music. And I'm a huge NF fan. My whole family is. So when you mentioned that, I was like, okay, cool. I can rock with that. I know, and again, really all the artists you mentioned are I'm big fans of as well. So um, back to letting go, one of the main themes you mentioned, obviously uh, the surrender part of it, and you about having trusting in God's plan, and really just putting that faith in your life, and really just what He's going to make out for you. If there was one piece of advice that you can give someone who's struggling with surrendering their plans to God, what would it be?
Yeah. I mean, it is so heavy to try to hold on and to
Mm,
carry things. And my life is a good example. For the first 20 something years of my life, that's what I was doing. I was trying to control. I was trying to make it out of my horrible life and situations by making a way on my own.
mhm,
And we're American, and a lot of people in this country are like this. We're wired to do that, to,
mhm,
follow the American dream. You make your own way and that kind of stuff. And I did that. And I accomplished everything that I ever could have wanted to, and still found myself very broken and empty. And which is why
mhm,
we see so many celebrities or people that are accomplished, they wind up really struggling with mental
mhm,
health, and even worse, right? They're no longer here because you get to a point where you keep trying to make it, hold on and control everything,
mhm,
and that it winds up destroying you and your identity and your self-worth. And so I would encourage anyone and everyone, not anyone, I encourage everyone, regardless your gender, regardless your age, your economic background, just surrender to God. Like the best thing that I ever did was say, God, here's my dreams, here's my plans. What do you have for me?
Mm.
Because I've been defining success in this way recently, and I really feel like this was given to me by God. You know, in this world, success is defined by money, by status, by charting, right? By awards or that kind of thing, accolades. And I've done those things and I've had those things. That doesn't do it. That doesn't fulfill. Success
Mhm.
for me now is obedience in
Right.
God, to God. I am successful when I'm able to obey and
Mhm.
listen to his instructions and then do what he's calling me to do. And that is so fulfilling. I've done things that I never thought I would do, right? Write a book.
Mhm.
I've had TV shows. I've had careers in different areas that I never thought I would have. And it's really because I've been listening and following his lead. So
Mhm.
please do yourself a favor and follow his lead because he adds to our lives in a way and things that we would never imagine. I'm married to an
Mhm.
incredible man of God, a pastor, right? That's hilarious. This girl from the ghetto that, was into thugs and all these kind of things is now married to a pastor. It's like, it's the funniest thing, but that's how God is. You surrender your ways to God and he adds to your life what you
Mhm.
need, but also that's something that's even bigger than what you could ever ask or imagine. It's true.
No, it reminds me of Ecclesiastes, and when Solomon writes in there, it's like you can have all the things of this world, but what is it going to matter at the end? It's
Right.
like it's not going to matter. The worldly things don't matter because with God you have eternity, and I think
Right.
that's at the end of the day you have that comfort and that peace that He's going to make a way for you, and whatever it is that's going to happen. But at the end of your worldly journey, you're going to be with him in eternity with Jesus. And
Right.
so I think that's a huge um, word of encouragement. So thank you for that. I mean, it just gives me, it's just
Of
like
course.
that's what this is all about. It's even with here at Kingdom Builder, we're here about having these conversations with people and wanting to really just hear the stories. And thank you so much for sharing that. And before
Yeah.
we,
And don't take my word for it. That was King Solomon. He
oh
was
right,
the
yeah, exactly, yeah,
wealthiest
oh yeah,
and the
absolutely,
wealthiest and
yep,
wisest
yep.
man that ever, there ever was in that
Hmm.
time. So,
Yep. Everything is meaningless. It's like until
right.
until you until you rest in the arms of God. And before we kind of wrap things up, for people who want to connect with you and get a little bit listen to Letting Go, where can they find where can they find you, and how can they support your ministry and music?
Yeah, so the website is JeannieO.com. And right there, you can literally text me from my website.
Mm,
And so there's so many times where people will just say, hey, I really need prayer, or I have a
mm,
question about faith, or I'm having a crisis of faith. And, that's a beautiful outlet to just be
mm.
able to connect. But social media at Jeannie Ortega, JeannieOrtega. And that's my everything, my Instagram, my ex Twitter,
Mhm.
my YouTube, everything. And I do have a podcast that I'm regularly releasing now. So yeah, you can connect with me on there. There's just, and my book, I'll hold it up to the camera so y'all can see what is
uh,
happening to me,
all
how to
right,
defeat
perfect.
my unseen enemy. It's a teaching book. Yes,
Hmm.
it's about my life and I teach through my life, but it's a
Hmm.
great spiritual teaching book. And so yeah, there's so many things and resources that we have at our fingertips these days, but you
Hmm.
can connect with me anywhere on socials or on the website and I'll be there.
Well, we'll make sure we put all those details in the description of course, this video, as well as and even just a way for our listeners to get the book there. But again, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your story with us. We do appreciate it. It's been an honor and pleasure to speak with you. Hopefully, we get as things progress. Hopefully, we get to have you on again and talk. Maybe get a dive a little deeper into the next project and and
Love
and go
that.
from there. But for those watching, listening, please make sure you follow Jeannie on her social medias. Check out those links in the description. You won't regret it. And again, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a blessing.
But hey, don't go just yet. Hit that like button, drop us a comment with your favorite part of the conversation, and share this with a friend. And of course, subscribe to Kingdom Builder TV and ring that bell so you never miss an update. For more on Jeannie, including ways to connect and check out her music, click on those links in the description. And while you're there, explore everything that today's Christian Entertainment and Kingdom Builder TV has to offer. Thanks again for watching, and I'm Mike Laxton, reminding you to put Christ first in your lives, and everything else will fall into place.